time, guys.
So some basic things for the folks out there. The Eagles are a co-op. And if you don't know what that is, a co-op is a cooperative effort amongst multiple high schools to put a team together. And something that we see across all sports, we often see 2 and sometimes 3 high schools combined because the numbers of any of the individual schools don't meet the requirements necessary for competition. But unlike most co-ops, with this particular sport, because hockey is not played as much on the eastern part of the state for sure, the co-op is grabbing kids from a dozen plus schools and trying to put together a roster with that many schools involved creates an issue. And the issue is that the CIAC has designated 30 as what a program can have in order to be eligible to compete in the postseason. And there's an application that gets put in, a co-op application that gets put in the fall for a winter sport. And the CIAC approves the co-op and then the postseason, which is a separate issue from that. And speaking with some people involved in the co-op from an athletic director standpoint, there are many schools that have 1 or 2 kids competing in hockey from that school. So it's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle in allowing as many kids as possible to play this sport. And no one wants to deny any of these kids an opportunity to play. But then the CIAC also has a rule that says you can't cut anybody. So you're put in this sort of untenable situation where you don't want to deny kids an opportunity, but yet if you cross 30, you get under the CIAC's radar for a penalty, and you can't cut anybody. So it's kind of a unique situation. There's really no other co-op example that looks like this. Let me start with that, Coach. Is there anything that I said there that wasn't accurate?
No, it's very accurate. It is like you said, Casey. It's a very unique situation in that we have a lot of schools that have 1 or 2 kids in this, basically almost the entire eastern side of the state here, that want to play hockey, and I'm not in a position to deny any kid who wants to play the opportunity to play. So everything you said was accurate. We have to apply for the co-op. We get approved. We're over 30, so we can't compete in the state tournament.
How many years have you been, a part of the program?
So my son played. I did not coach when my son played. So we've been part of it since 2020. I was the assistant coach for the last 2 seasons, and this is my first year as the head coach.
And in that time, all 5 of those years, you have been a co-op, and you've had to go through this process every time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. In that time, is this the first year where you've been denied access to the postseason?
No. Last year was the first year that we were able to compete in the postseason. I don't know the details behind it. I wasn't the head coach and I wasn't as involved as I am now. But last year we were able to compete as long as we qualified. They gave us I don't know what you want to call it, if it's an exception or a waiver. I don't remember the exact terminology, but we were allowed to compete in states last year.
Okay. So take us back to in the fall, applications put in for the co-op. It's approved, and the application was put in at the number of 30 that is required. That is the threshold, so to speak. And back then, the CIAC said that they were going to make you ineligible for the postseason. Is that accurate? And if so, what was the reason they gave you then?
So the reason we were actually, I believe, I don't have the exact number. I think it was 28 or 29 is what the number we had at the time we had our preseason meeting. So every year we have a meeting with all the parents and all the students, and that's where we gather our numbers from. And obviously, as you know, that meeting takes place in September. the regular season didn't start until after Thanksgiving. So we had a couple of kids who trickled in, and we ended up over the number. But when we applied, I think we're at 29. But regardless of that, we were still told shortly thereafter we weren't allowed to compete because in the last, I believe they said 4 seasons, they drew on one in particular. We submitted our application with less than 30 because, again, as I stated, when we have our meetings, we have less than 30 kids show up, or parents and kids show up to the meeting. So that's what we base our application on, because you have to apply before, the regular season actually starts or opens up. We were told that because over the last, I think, 4 seasons, we had applied with less than 30 and ended up with a roster that was more than 30. Regardless of what our number was this year, we were not going to be able to compete in states.
Okay, before we talk about, and Nick, I'm going to be asking you a whole bunch of questions about a player's perspective on all of this. But Coach, so my understanding is at the application time, which is months prior to the start of the season, when you fill out the application, you're held to that number. So, for example, if you had put in 35 as your number and come tryouts or first day of practice, only 25 showed up, you wouldn't be held to the number of 25. You'd be held to the number of 35 that was part of the application. So
I believe that's the case. I'm not entirely sure, but I agree with you.
I do. Yeah, it is true. I wanted to make sure it's okay. If that's from the. So the reason I say that is because you guys had the opposite, right? You thought you had a certain number, and then more kids showed up. So talking to the athletic directors, their mandate as educators are to not deny any kid who wants an opportunity to play hockey a chance to play hockey. And so the numbers oftentimes go up a little bit. They often come down again, too. Is it fair to say that the number you start with and the number you end up with goes this way regularly?
Yes, I agree with that. Yep.
Okay, so has at any point in the last 5 years, have you been aware of any suggestions made from the governing body, the CIAC, about how to better address this? Because it seems like it's not new. It's not a surprise to anybody. It's happened every year for 5 years. Have there ever been a suggestion of what they think you guys should do to, avoid this?
Yeah, the main suggestion we get every year is to split the co-op up into 2 teams. That's really the only viable suggestion that we've been given. In conversations with people not part of the CIAC, other coaches, it's okay. Well, maybe there's just some schools you have to exclude, and I'm not going to do that. So the only suggestion from the CIAC is to split the co-op up into 2 teams,
which would be 2 teams of 16, let's say.
Yep.
What is what is a typical varsity roster traveling to a game?
Anywhere from 20 to 22.
And the recommendation was you should field a team of 16.
Correct.
Okay.
Chris, am I wrong here? For a typical game, and Nick too, you can chime in. You'd have 3 forward lines of 3. That's 9. 3 defensive pairings of 2. That'd be 15, and a goalie and a backup. Is that right?
That's correct. I would even go so far as to say, if you're able to keep kids, fresh on the ice, even having some availability of a 4th line would be really what most teams are looking for. But I would agree that 3 lines is you can get by with 3 lines.
So what do you guys make of? Well, you could play with 15.
So the problem, we could play with 15, and I'll even let Nick kind of talk to the viability because he's currently on the tail end of this. You're playing a winter sport during flu season. I can tell you that through, what have we played, 14 games this year, I've had to bring other kids up to play off of the JV roster because of sickness, illness, and injury, right? It's a very physical sport. It's a time of year when kids get sick. I would call it virtually impossible, and I've come across teams I've had to cancel 2 games this year against teams that had kids get sick or hurt, and they didn't have enough kids to field a team. Those are those teams that are fielding 15 kids on a team, 14 kids on a team. So is it possible? Yes. Is it viable? No. And the other even bigger snag in that is geographically, like my 2 goalies live in the same area. I'd have a team that has 2 goalies, and then I have a team that has 0 goalies. Ice time availability is another issue. There's just not a lot of rinks around here. So to field our team, we barely, squeeze our games and our practice times in. You add a whole nother team to that. It's, and then the cost, right? It already costs these kids over $2,000 to play. You split that team into 2, you double the cost. It's going to cost them $4,000 for them to play hockey for 3 months.
Chris, in Eastern Connecticut, what are the options as far as rinks?
For us, we practice at Conn College, and that's only because they're kind enough to let us use the ice at 3:00 Monday through Thursday. And then our games are at the Norwich Rose Garden on Wednesdays and Saturdays based around availability.
Now
I have to book that like months and months and months in advance so I don't lose those spots.
And the next closest place would be what, like Pomfret?
Bolton, maybe. Pomfret, heading down the shore. I mean, I think the next closest rink is like Northford, maybe. Yeah, it's not close by.
So you have a player from Wheeler. You have players from Lyman. Killingly.
Yep.
I'm just looking at Conn College at 3:00. So if I want to play hockey and I live in Killingly, I've got to really want to play hockey. Because
Nick, I'll let you take this one because you have your friends, your teammates with these guys, and you talk to these guys in the locker room all the time. So you probably have a better feel for how stressful and how time crunch it is.
Nick, let me just start with you. Where do you go to school? I know this, but for the people at home.
I think he froze.
Nick, you with us?
Looks like he might have froze.
Yeah, I think he froze.
All right.
Oh,
there we go.
Okay,
There he is.
All right. Nick, where are you in school? Nope. All right. We're going to go. All right. So while Nick works out his technical difficulty, aren't high school kids supposed to be the technically savvy ones here? And we 4 adults are trying to figure this out. And while Nick gets himself back here. So if I'm in Killingly and I got to be at Conn College for a practice at 3:00, I mean, that is before the school day even ends just about. I mean, it's like I'm cutting it as close as possible. So you've got kids doing that from all over the place to make themselves. So when you talk about the financial part of it, it's more than even the financial part of it, right? If I want to be a hockey player in Eastern Connecticut, I've got to be willing to spend money, to travel, and to fit, times that other kids don't. So I guess what my point is that, you got to really want to be a hockey player to be a hockey player in Eastern Connecticut. Am I safe in saying that?
Absolutely, 100% true.
Nick, are you back with us?
I think you're muted, buddy. There you go. Oh, can't hear you.
All right, Nick's gonna re-up here. Nick, you just let us
Hello?
know when you. All right,
There we go.
All right.
Hey.
All right, much better. So, Nick, for the folks at home, where do you go to school?
I go to St. Bernard School.
And where do you live?
I live in Groton.
Okay. So, for you to play hockey, you have to go from Groton to St. Bernard's and then from St. Bernard's to Conn College.
Correct.
Talk about some of your teammates and where they're coming from and what they face in order to do exactly what you do.
Yeah, so I'll say the 2 biggest ones are probably Bacon Academy and then Killingly High School. Those are probably the 2 farthest, right? So both my friends, Gavin Bessonniere and Gary Bartis, 2 of the assistant captains, right? Both of them, I know they get out of school early just to be able to make practice on time. And then Gavin, one of the days he can't leave early because his last period is an AP class, and that's not a valid, you can't just leave your AP class to get to practice on time, because that's valuable time of class you're missing, especially for such an important topic, and that's not to leave class 20, 30 minutes early just to be able to get to practice on time. You can't do that. And to be doing that every other day for 3 months, that's a lot of time in class you're missing. And like from Bacon Academy, I know they get out of school 15 minutes early every day to get to practice on time, and then they carpool down. Like, again, that's not like that's time in class you're missing just to be able to get to practice on time.
So, Coach, you guys, one of the things that I think people need to understand, you guys were told you're not going to play in the postseason. You subsequently petitioned and said, well, we'd like the decision to be reviewed. Talk a little bit about what got you to that point, and then what you were told when you did that.
So I met with the AD, Jack Messina. He's the host school of St. Bernard's, where Nick goes. And we drafted a letter, an appeal letter, if you will, to the CIAC. And, we're kind of, I talked to Jack about it a little bit, but essentially the letter was, stating, look, you guys knew this. We're not telling you can't play hockey. We're telling you we're approving your co-op. You just can't participate in the state tournament. We tried to talk about, again, how close we are to the numbers. And I understand, to everybody listening that it's a bigger issue. I'm not asking anybody to change the rules, in mid-season like this. Like, I understand that the rules are there for a reason. I'm just asking that, obviously in life, in the world, over time, things change. This is a very unique situation, and I just don't feel like it's being treated in the unique manner that it is. It's sort of being very, in a box, very black and white. And our situation, as we've discussed at the beginning of this call, it's the furthest thing from in a box you could possibly have. And we were just asking for them to review it in a, take a look outside the box type of situation. And unfortunately, it was just, the response was sort of canned at, look, you're over 30. You've been over 30 for the last few years, and you can't participate.
Chris,
so the teams that you play, can you give us example of some of the teams that you play and what they're, where they're playing from? Are you playing any other, puzzle pieced co-ops like you, or are there
I don't think anybody's quite like us, but I mean, there are some, like I think East Haven is a co-op, Watertown, Pomperog, they're a co-op. I think Tri-Town up in, the Enfield area. There's other teams that are co-ops.
But in fairness, Tri-Town sounds like 3, and the other one you mentioned sounds like 2. You guys would be like the Dirty Dozen, right? So the co-ops you're playing are typical co-ops, nothing that resembles you.
Yeah, and I think I understand, that to some degree the purpose behind the CIAC's rule, because, you could have a town like, I'm going to make up a town. I don't know if this is the case, but like Darien could have 60 kids on their team, but because they're all in one school, they're allowed to have 60 kids on their team, right? I have to pull from 13 or 12 different schools just to get enough kids to play hockey. And where it becomes a little bit of a nit is I'm not going to go and just hand select the right schools with the right kids to make the team that I want to make and exclude these kids so that I stay under my number and I get the most talented kids. And I understand the reason the rules like that is you don't want these schools or these co-ops, these powerhouse co-ops to be created. Like I totally understand that. But as we pointed out, look at our record over the last 4 years. We're not a powerhouse. We're not blowing anybody's doors off. We were one and done in the States last year. We just want to play, and I want these boys to have a chance to play in the state tournament. I mean, what else are you playing for? Yeah, there's a Nutmeg Conference, and that's great. We're going to play for that, and hopefully we're going to win that. But it's everybody's goal to play in states in any sport at any time when you're in high school. That's what everybody wants.
Chris, as we, there's nothing that we can do about this for this year, but what ideas do you have moving forward where maybe we can fix this for next year?
I mean, I just think it has to be viewed. I don't, Mike, I don't have any, like, golden tickets that are gonna change that and sort of, take a different approach to it, because it's so unique in the way that we came together, that I don't know that there's an answer other than to please, to have the CIAC review this as a unique situation, and understand that, I've made it very clear, we're not trying to go in and create this powerhouse that's just going to go and sweep Division 2. I don't care if you guys think we're creating such a powerhouse. Put me in the Division 1 states. I'll play the Division 1 team. I'll play the number 1 Division 1 team. I just want these boys to have an opportunity to play in states. That's all. That's really my goal.
Nick, I know you have had this opportunity outside of hockey. What does playing in the state tournament mean to you?
It's a whole different atmosphere, right? Like, like all through the years, like last year was this past year, my first year not in like a hockey sense, getting to compete in a state tournament. And you always had people talk about like, oh, it's like the atmosphere is so much different. What people like are explaining to you, it's like, wow, that just sounds awesome. Like you want the chance to be able to like see what that's like, and like have your team like be together competing for something. It's a whole new purpose and level of like competition that people like find within them. And then when they're all coming together and every team is aiming for that one goal, it's something like that you find that you've been looking for all season, but it took that extra time to get there and that extra work to get there. But when you do, it's like it's a whole new like reason to keep going.
Nick, where did you play youth hockey?
I did. I've been playing for the last 14 years.
Okay, where did you play youth hockey?
I played at the Seahawks down at Norwich.
Okay. How many of the kids on your team did you play with in youth hockey?
Now, I believe it is it just one left? Most of my friends I grew up playing with have all graduated now.
So, in general, though, you got 30 kids on the roster. How many of them played youth hockey together as a rule? Because I'm saying, Coach mentioned like a Darien, in theory, those kids all played in the youth together. And I know like in other sports, everyone plays together in the youth programs moving up. Is it the same way with hockey? Do you guys, is it fewer playing together than what you have at the high school level?
There's definitely a lot of people that have come together, like who've played growing up. And obviously, playing in youth hockey, you could have people coming from different areas. So, like, naturally, like whose high school team you're on might be different. But there was a large majority of us that have grown up playing for the same youth organizations. And some have come from different areas that we didn't know of before. But I think at one point, most of our team has all played growing up on the same team.
So then when you would get to high school, you'd be in high school, and you'd be having to talk to one of your friends, and the choice would be, hey, yeah, your school's not going to be eligible for the co-op so that we can meet CIAC rules. That's basically what you guys would be, because I know St. Bernard's has 5, and you're the host school. But you would actually have friends who would be concerned about their not being able to play hockey at all if, in fact, if it ever came down to like limiting the number of players, right? So you have kids that you would have played together that you would have to basically say, your school may not be a part of things this year.
Exactly. You can't do that. It's like, no, that's not a good feeling for anyone.
Nick, what message do you think the powers that be need to hear about all this?
I feel like the overall, like, we just want to have a chance, right? And, like, we get told, like, they want equal opportunity for all kids, and they want everyone to have the chance to play in a state tournament. And I think it just needs to not be so black and white. Like, I understand the need for rules. Like, rules are necessary. But there's situations that are different for every team, right? And then our team has had this issue for years. Like, it's not a new thing. And I think me and some of my like other seniors, right? We want obviously we want the chance to be in the state tournament. Yes, we would love that. We want the chance to compete. It extends our season a little longer. I'm not ready to be done in a few weeks, right? It's a weird feeling. But we want to help the team in the future grow, right? We don't want people to leave the team because they're not going to have a chance to play in the state tournament knowing that. Like, we want our team in the future to keep growing, for people to be excited to come up, right? We want the future teams to have that opportunity. So that's what we're fighting for right now.
Coach, I'm going to ask the same question to you. What would you like the message to be to both the CIAC and to the person that just says, "Hey, I saw that story about the Eagles. What do you think?" What would you like the message to be?
Put themselves in these boys' shoes, right? Take yourself back to your youth if you were a hockey player, or any sport for that matter. Put yourself in Nick's shoes, or in Gavin's shoes, or in Garrick's shoes, and think about the message that you're sending to these boys. You're the Connecticut Interscholastic, Athletic Conference, or whatever the C stands for. And you're essentially telling them, yeah, because that's the message we got. Yeah, we'll let you play. You guys can play. We're not telling you can't play. You just can't play in states. And as you just listened to Nick, talk about, that's such a big part of anybody. Like, everybody talks about when they played as kids, but nobody's regaling, their games during the regular season. They talk about, the quarterfinals and the finals and the championship and those moments, that really bond a team together like that. And, I just want them to take a step back from the bureaucracy that is these positions, and sitting behind a desk and saying, yeah, you got 32, you can't play, and put yourself in that kid's shoes and say, hey, you know what? Maybe that is a unique situation. Maybe we do need to take a step back and deal with this as a one-off, as opposed to, in the box that I described before. I think they need to just view it from a high school student's point of view, and understand that there's more to it than just checking a box and saying, yeah, you're at 32, you're done.
Well, I want to thank you both. Mike, Peter, and I are going to talk about this at length, but before I let you go, I just as someone who has an appreciation for sports that I didn't know a lot about growing up, right? So hockey is something it wasn't until there was no hockey when I was in high school. It wasn't until I got to college that I got to meet hockey players, and I have a decent idea of the work that goes into it. I also know about ice time and the times of day that you have to practice as a kid if you want to be a hockey player, and the equipment and the drive. And for you all to have a hockey team requires you to put in sacrifices unlike almost any other sport, any other school, any other co-op. So I definitely have an appreciation. So I can only imagine how deflating it is after having put in all of the time, effort, and work just to have a team, to then not be able to showcase that in something as important as the state. So before you go, I just want to say that personally I have a great appreciation for the work that both of you and your teammates put in. So thank you very much for joining us and sharing the story, and giving us something that we should talk about. And hopefully we can continue to talk about this and see if we can't get some solutions out of this, and at least the next generation of Eagles hockey player might not have to deal with this the same way.
I hope so too. And I just want to thank you guys for your time, excuse me, and for bringing it to the forefront and drawing so much attention to it. It's been great. I have people at work stopping and talking to me about it who've never even talked to me about hockey before. So all this, everything that surrounds this, and all the message getting out there, and the new people in the audience that this will hit that didn't hear other interviews or read stories, it's fantastic. And I really do appreciate all of your time and energy that you guys put into this too. So thank you.
Hey, Nick, what position do you play?
I play left wing.
I'm just going to let you know that one of the best ways to overcome disappointment is a hat trick.
He's already got one this year.
There you go.
He's looking for more.
There you
All
go.
right. Put the biscuit in the basket, man. Have a good time tonight, next game,
That's
and
right.
we'll continue to follow you guys. Thank you so much, Chris Pertelli, Nick Rembish of the Eastern Connecticut Eagles. Good luck, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Go, Case. I'm too annoyed right now. Go.
So I've been thinking about this a lot, and having spoken with them, I don't have any new information per se. It's just I had forgotten just how much they have to do just to even play hockey. Like, there, we broadcast all athletes in all these sports, and we see, my father likes to tell the story of years ago when the cheerleaders at New London had to practice in the lobby. Like, over the course of time, different athletes have been forced to do. Bacon Academy was playing on fields that were pretty much condemned. Like, so every school and every sport, they've got stories of this. But this is a really special set of circumstances when you're trying to put together a kid from Killingly and Wheeler onto the same team. You literally can't get any farther on the, from one place to the other, and they're trying to put them on the same team at Conn College. They're going through an enormous amount of struggle, and so did the CIAC do anything, against the rule, against their own? No, they followed their rules, but this is where I land. The governing body of the state of Connecticut's high school athletes. High school athletes is an extension of the educational system. It's an after-school activity. It is a part of their educational experience at the school to play a sport for that school. And I would like to think the governing body, whose job it is to protect, in part, the integrity of the game, but also the athletes that are playing the game, could find a way in 5 years of the same thing happening to offer a solution better than put your kids at risk. Because that's the solution here for them, was field 2 teams that likely will forfeit multiple games and will be asking you on a regular basis to have kids play either sick or injured. There's got to be a better solution than that. And I would just like the governing body to offer solutions rather than simply police the rules. They didn't do anything against the rules. They just, I'd like to, there's got to be a way to better police this. That's all. And make it a solution versus a punishment.
Well said. Okay, well said. I guess you're right. Okay, they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything wrong. They're enforcing their rules. The problem is, again, and it's not just this sport. It is all of them. Everything about the CIAC is one size fits all. Everything is one size fits all, and there is no nuance. There's no room for any of that whatsoever. And if any program deserves a second look, it's this one. We see, and Pete knows, as a swim parent, there's co-ops, tri-ops, quad-ops, whatever that would be. This is 12. There's nothing like it. And I do think that maybe we could relax the co-op number for them in years down the road. And then I talked to Jack Messina, who says that, well, when he said to us, separate conversations, no, when we put the when we submitted our original number, it was right at 30.
Right.
And then you get told, well, you've gone over before, so now you're not going to get in this state tournament, even if you stay at 30. And I keep thinking to myself, that's like the DMV saying we're not going to renew your license in 26 because in 24 and 25 you got I don't know, you got a speeding ticket and a fender bender. I don't understand. If they're at 30, okay. If they go over during the course of this season, fine. Now you got a problem. But if they stay there, I don't understand any of this.
So I have a second wave of comments, but I'd like Peter to weigh in because you weren't part of the interview directly, so that you have a lot to digest here as well.
So I can see the intent of the rule, because I think anytime that you start carving out exceptions and loopholes, there's bound to be somebody out there who is going to take advantage of those loopholes and say, like, I want to put together an all-star team and pick and choose the towns, the schools, the individuals, and that's what they're trying to prevent. I think we have to remember that. So a lot of the complaints are, the CIAC this, the CIAC that, and I'm sensitive to that a little bit because, like, it's an organization, but it's not fair to think of it as a monolith. We have to remember that there are human beings behind those decisions, the same way that when people criticize, the day is this, the day is that. You gotta remember, like,
fair point.
I mean, the day is Mike and myself and the other people who work here.
And I have to tell people all the time that I didn't write that. Mike did.
So, like, I understand the position that they are in, and that, like, I don't know, are there others out there that are looking for exceptions, and you want to apply the rules and the standards equally to all the teams and organizations out there. I wonder if it doesn't seem like other teams would object to this team participating. Maybe there would be, like, it seems like there ought to be a way to ask for a waiver or an exemption, and maybe a good part of that would be to, like, put it out to the rest of the membership of the hockey league.
Well, Pete, we just had Chris tell us, he dresses 22 for a game. Then make the number 40 or 41 or for next year.
Hockey's a little bit different than a lot. Like, you can't compare it to a basketball team where you can play 5 for the whole game and you can get away with 8. A closer would be football, where imagine if your football roster was 15 or 20. Your roster is 20.
Well,
it's challenging because you can play it. Hockey routine, like a hockey rotation, is routinely 15 to 18 players.
Yeah, we have seen basketball teams that play 32 minutes with 5 players.
Correct. We
have seen football teams where, there might be 25 kids on the sideline, but
they play with 20 or 18.
Or they play with, I would say 14, 15 even.
But hockey,
it's not possible. If you're a first liner in hockey, you are on the ice for 70 seconds, 90 seconds maybe, and then you are off for 3 minutes.
And to be clear, it becomes a injury and health risk to the players if you're asking them to do more than that. So a 16 to 18 person rotation in hockey is the max. You might get away with a certain night playing it at 14, 15, but you're taxing your athletes at that point.
Yes, it's if this was a world where you could guarantee that everybody on your roster was healthy and available every game, you could have a team of 16. Mm-hmm. You would be stretched a little thin,
and you'd be exhausted every single time you played, but you could do it.
Yeah. So if the number 30 was arrived at because it's close to, like, if if we think 16, if someone thinks 16 is the minimum and you double that and you get to around 30, it seems like that cap. It seems like a reasonable proposal would be to increase that cap a little bit and or do something like Major League Baseball does, where you've got a little bit of a bigger roster window during the regular season, but then come playoff time, you submit like this is the 22 who are available.
Exactly, Pete.
So
now that is asking someone to do additional administrative work.
Well,
which is
so I'm gonna go in order. I wrote down 5 things, and I'm gonna go in order. First, I just want to say to Jack Messina after speaking with him, thank you. Thank you for being exactly what athletic directors and educators are supposed to be. You said to me, and it's evident, that you're the only game in town, and any kid that wants to play is going to get that opportunity, and you're not going to tell some kid because they're the lone kid in Killingly or the second kid in Ledyard, no, you can't play for us because we'll go over the CIAC's roster limit. So start there. Thank you, because I think that's, the CIAC may or may not be, they may be trying to police against corruption. Well, you're the opposite of that. You're the opposite of you're exactly what they want. You're the guy who's trying to be inclusive of as many kids who want to play this sport as possible. It's not like you can turn them away to go play someplace else. They can play for you or they don't play hockey, and you said, you know what? I want you to be able to play. So that's number one. Number two, as someone who worked for the state for a lot of years and was a manager, it drove me crazy when we created policies to lower the bar for everyone rather than hold the people accountable. So it's like, hey, that one time, that one guy took an hour lunch. So now it's a 40-minute lunch for everyone. Like, no. How about police the issues that arise that break the rules rather than create rules that are one size fit all? So if they were to relax it, to Peter's point, yes, maybe some team would come out and try to manipulate that rule. And if that happened, police that. But if you're trying to maintain a certain spirit of competition, no one's arguing that the Eagles are a super team or are threatening to corrupt the power structure of hockey. So I think I'd rather see them keep their eyes out for a team trying to violate or break the rules rather than a team that's genuinely trying to piece together as many kids as possible from all these schools. Third is, it's hard for me to hear that to have them take the state tournament away from a team. When I go to Mohegan Sun and I watch us play our boys and girls basketball finals at Mohegan Sun, and I watch I go to our football finals at colleges with incredible facilities, and I watch our soccer, and I see the CIAC clearly believes, as do I, but they clearly believe that the state playoffs and the state championships are very, very important. Evidenced by the fact that they treat them that way. We play in cathedrals. We play in unbelievable venues. We play on TV. We have a sports network that steps it up when we get to the postseason. So the CIAC, and I know I'm making this, again, it's making it a monolith, but we clearly, as a sports society, including our governing body, feel like the state tournaments are a big deal. So think about what you're taking, to say to a team, hey, listen, we'll let you play, but you can't play in the state tournament, is not a small thing. That is a very big thing to the kids who you have shown this is a very big deal as well. So a lot of people to like in this. There's no villain in this. Even the CIAC, who I'm the first to make a villain whenever I can, I don't think the CIAC is a villain in this. I go back to my original point. This just feels like a situation worth correcting. Not necessarily for this year, but worth addressing. Find a fix to this, because you know what? It's going to happen again next year. So why don't we get out in front of it and not let it happen again next year? That's my overriding statement.
I mean, it's a good goal to encourage hockey in Eastern Connecticut to expand back to 2 teams. And if there were, I guess if in September or whenever they have to put in this application when they have these initial signups, if there were 48 kids, or you could find a way to increase participation.
I'd have to find a rate. So one of them would have to be up in the Northeast to take advantage of that rink, right?
Given there's a lot of challenges, I think it's a good goal to try to encourage participation,
Yes.
increasing participation. It's unfortunate, and I don't think that's not the goal of these rules. The unfortunate thing is, I mean, I think it's true of most sports at this point. As interest grows in more and more sports, and we see fewer and fewer multi-sport athletes. Mike mentioned swimming. Swimming around here has shrunk to the point where there's only 3 boys teams in the ECC, and barely so.
And that's probably the closest co-op situation. Of course, the difference being because as a swimmer individually doesn't matter. You can go compete at the states on your own because there is you may not be able to win the team championship, but you have an individual component to it that you can stick with. But your co-op situation in the ECC for swimming is the closest of these, drawing from multiple schools. But
Yeah, and I think my point is, take football. Football is going down this path where there are going to be more and more co-op situations, and so we don't like the one size fits all rules. I think the rules maybe were made for a situation where co-ops were the exception, and we want to carve out some exception to allow some schools to play. I think co-ops are rapidly becoming the rule and the majority as football gets players stolen from other sports. Youth hockey is in decline. We're getting suggestions that we need flag football, we need pickleball. So I think the rules do need to adapt to the modern day, and I hope that there's a venue for someone to make a proposal to the committee that's in charge of this, and maybe help adapt the rules to the reality of today.
That's it, Pete. You just said it. And when the Eagles approached Greg Simon at CIAC, I thought they showed us it was a very cold and canned response back, and no, that's the part that I've seen this many times, and unwillingness to even sit down and have a real let's work this out. I don't ever see that, and I think it's about time.
That letter is in the article that's written by
that Vicky wrote. Yeah.
So if you do want to see that letter, it is in the published article in the Day, and I referenced that because that was the opportunity for the CIAC's opinion on this to be heard, and that's what they sent.
Couldn't you if you want to say, dear Nick, we get it, we're sorry, this is kind of but how about we leave room to represent in the off season? Just something that shows, hey, we kind of get it here. There's nothing that we can do about this now, but let's work on this for 2027.
Peter, you mentioned that your snowblower is on the fritz right now, and fortunately for you, you have manual labor available to you at the home. But if you chose to not get a snowblower for next year, how many years before you get to stop using the excuse, I didn't know it was going to snow? So we're in year 5 of this same situation. There's no more. It's going to happen again next year. It's going to happen the year afterwards. Get the snowblower fixed, or that's where I feel like we know it's going to happen, and I don't tell kids they can't play, since they also say you can't cut kids, by the way. So the CIAC agrees that you can't cut kids. So telling kids they can't play, telling kids to play unsafe, none of those are good suggestions. Let's find one. Let's find a good suggestion. To Peter's point, co-ops aren't going away. Use this opportunity to start making policies around the future as opposed to the past.
Well said.
As always, we are always interested in your feedback. We are always interested in what you have to say. I will say there was a large portion of the hockey community, certainly the Eagles community, who was very interested in this and getting their story out. So we will continue to talk about it. We thank everybody for joining us today, and I really do want to thank the Eagles for joining us because hearing it directly from them, and you can hear the passion in both of their voices. They're not expecting last second, let them play. We're not going to have it, we're not going to get that, but they are just, they hear the passion and how much it matters. I think it's worth hearing. It's worth personalizing it. It's worth making this about people and not about form letters, policies, rules, and policing. As always, Peter Wappy makes it happen. Mike DiMauro and I, we've got issues. Come back next week.